Head of Unit DEBIAIS-SAINTON, Rector BORHY, representatives of the European University Foundation and the Erasmus Student Network, distinguished guests and speakers, students, participants. It is my great honor to welcome you at the Erasmus App Conference here at the Ceremony Hall of Eötvös Loránd University and online. My name is Ferenc Takó. I'm head of the Rector's Cabinet Charm EU office here at Eötvös Loránd University, and it is my great pleasure that I had the opportunity to be involved in the preparations of this project years ago. This will be a one-day event aiming to present what the Erasmus Plus app offers to the European higher education community. This is a milestone in student mobility developed in the cooperation of universities and international organizations with the support of the European Commission. It is our great pleasure that all these stakeholders will be represented today. About the program, first we will listen to the welcome speech of Professor László BORHY, Rector of Eötvös Loránd University. Then we will see a video message from Themis CHRISTOPHIDOU, Director General for Education, Youth and Culture of the European Commission. Our keynote speaker will be Ms. Vanessa DEBIAIS-SAINTON, Head of Higher Education Unit at the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission. And in the next part of the conference, we will listen to presentations from consortium partners and higher education institution representatives. In the afternoon, there are workshops organized for the participants. As we have a very busy schedule, let's start and keep that. So first and foremost, I would like to ask Rector BORHY to deliver his welcome speech.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Eötvös Loránd University, let me warmly welcome the representatives of the European Commission. First of all, our keynote speaker, Mrs. Vanessa DEBIAIS-SAINTON, Head of Higher Education Unit at the Directorate General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission. The representatives of our project partners, the European University Foundation and the Erasmus Student Network. And finally, yet importantly, all on-site and online participants from higher education institutions as well as from student organizations. It is our pleasure to have you all here at the Erasmus App Conference, which is dedicated to celebrate the milestone we have jointly reached in the digitalization of the Erasmus student mobility. It is a great honor for our university to be part of such a remarkable development that serves the needs of the entire community of the European higher education institutions and their students in managing their Erasmus mobility activities. We at Eötvös Loránd University believe that innovation is of key importance for the higher education sphere. Eötvös Loránd University has always been committed to convey state-of-the-art knowledge to its students and as part of this to provide high-quality mobility experience. Promoting mobility is one of the key elements of our internationalization strategy and as such the integral part of our work. We know exactly what mobility management means for a higher education institution, and we are happy and proud that as the result of this 30-month-long project, under the coordination of the Eötvös Loránd University, the Erasmus app now offers a wide range of functionalities supported by modern, user-friendly design for all its potential users. As a main achievement, it is now a reality that students can apply for study mobility directly via the app, thus making the management of mobility applications easier, greener, and more inclusive. With this development, we have made an important step towards promoting paperless Erasmus, which is a major achievement in catering to the needs of international relation officers who work with applications on a daily basis throughout Europe. This is absolutely in line with the digitalization of the administrative procedures and we have made quite an impressive improvement in the past 2 years in this regard. Let me also highlight those features of the app that offer the possibility to customize it to the needs of the users and make it possible to share institution-specific useful information via the app. Today is a great occasion for all of you to get better insight into the features of the app offers, and please encourage your students to download it from the app stores and start exploring its functionalities. Today, we will not only present the current state of the Erasmus Plus app to you, but we will also discuss how we can further exploit the potential that lies in this tool for the European higher education community. Through the plenary presentations, as well as in the interactive on-site and online workshop sessions, we aim to illustrate the usability of the app in contributing to the qualitative and quantitative improvement of student mobility. I wish you all a successful conference with interesting plenary presentations and fruitful conversations in the workshops. I truly hope that after 2 years' break in attending physical events, today you will enjoy the traditional form of networking with colleagues. And now, please welcome the video message from Mrs. Themis CHRISTOPHIDOU, Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission. Thank you for your attention.
Dear friends, though I cannot be present with you today, I could not miss this opportunity to be part of this Erasmus Plus app event. I still remember a time when leaving to study in another country was an incredibly daunting task. You needed all your documents, so many stamps, so much paper, and you could only hope everything would go well. What if someone were to not recognize your experience? What if you needed help getting something approved? Mobility used to be much harder. Erasmus Plus changed all that. The Erasmus Plus app and the European Student Card Initiative more broadly are another step in this direction, a step towards simpler processes for mobility, a step towards digital information at our fingertips, a step towards so many Europeans taking a new step. Over the last 5 years, the Erasmus Plus app has evolved into the main point to find guidance before, during, and after your mobility. Here, the participation of students and international officers has been invaluable. If the app acts as a town square, you fill it with life, with tips and advice. You are the community we have always wanted to support. International relations officers and university staff have also benefited a lot. Want to inform incoming students about opportunities they should not miss? Submit it in the app. Want to have students in contact with each other? Use the app. Want to help your outgoing students get informed about mobility abroad? The app again. Learners get more involved. Universities get effective, efficient communication, all in a smartphone application. However, for this to work, to make sure all the app's functionality is available, we need your help. We need your institutions to promote the app, to share good practice, and to continue to work on this process of digitalization. And of course, we need students to use it. I said it before and I'll say it again. If the app is our digital town square, you are our community. As you meet today, have your say and let us know what you would like to see in the app. Your insight into the experience of mobility is fundamental. It has done so much already. Mobility could never have become the social phenomenon it is without a warm community ready to venture out and at the same time to welcome in. So please tell us what you think would help you. Dear friends, looking at the tragedy in Ukraine, people fleeing from war, fighting for their survival, and among them your fellow students and colleagues. Let us remember that the European Union, and Erasmus Plus in particular, are and have always been dedicated to spreading the values of peace and cooperation among people, not only in Europe, but across the world. This is what we're doing today, and this is what we will continue doing. And for this, we should all be proud. I wish you a great event, and I look forward to hearing about your conclusions. Thank you.
We are very grateful for the Director General for sending the video message and for sharing the Commission's vision on digitalization and the Erasmus app. And I would like to introduce Ms. Vanessa DEBIAIS-SAINTON, Head of Higher Education Unit at the Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture of the European Commission, to deliver her keynote speech titled How to Boost the European Student Mobility Experience. Thank you.
Good morning everyone. Dear international relation officers, dear digital officers, university staff and student representatives. It is my pleasure to be here with you today, even if online, because you are the closest guides of students going on mobility. And that is why we need you. We need you to promote the potential of the Erasmus Plus application to students. This is a tool developed by students and by universities for the benefit of other students. And that is why we need you to promote it, as it has the potential to really benefit all the students before, during and after their mobility abroad. So this is very important for us, that you promote, well, first that you take full opportunity of the potential of this application, that you promote it to the students, but also that you help us to make it as relevant as possible to your needs. And that is the objective of the meeting of today, and that is why I would like to thank really warmly Eötvös University for organizing this hybrid event. Eötvös University, that is, as you mentioned it, a key partner of the CHRISTOPHIDOU European University. And I would like to thank as well ESN and EUF for their continuous hard work and engagement in providing relevant services and support to Erasmus Plus students. In January, the European Commission has published its European strategy for universities that provides a long-term vision for the field of higher education for the years to come. It provides support to enable higher education institutions to adapt in this quickly evolving society. And we have proposed more than 50 actions to support higher education institutions across Europe. And among them, there are 4 flagships. And the European Student Card Initiative is one of these very important flagships that is essential to bring European students closer together and to develop this strong sense of European belonging. And of course, the Erasmus Plus app is a core part, an important part of this European Student Card Initiative, as it provides students with a single entry point to manage all their different steps in this mobility abroad. And it provides as well links to higher education institutions across Europe to connect and to exchange essential academic data. So this Erasmus Plus app was created a few years ago when we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Erasmus program at that time. And it has evolved a lot since then, especially last year, where we revamped totally the Erasmus Plus app to make it even more relevant to the needs of you and of your students. Now we would like to use this opportunity today to hear your feedback and also give you an opportunity to exchange your good practices and also to exchange with us potential for further development and further improvements. And for this, so there have been continuous functionalities that have been developed and added, but to really fully exploit the potential of all these new functionalities, like signing the online learning agreement, for example, we need all your universities to be connected to the Erasmus Without Paper network. And we know that this requires a collective effort at the level of the, at European level, national level, and at your level within the university. Of course, it does not depend only on the international relation offices, but it's also dependent on the support that you will get from your IT colleagues, of course. But this is a very much necessary work that will give you and your student the full potential of these functionalities. And it has the potential to make the mobility and the administration of all the mobility greener and simpler. So now with the developments, the Erasmus app also gives the opportunity to the students and alumni to exchange tips and to really create a vibrant Erasmus community, connecting and helping each other, not only the Erasmus Plus students, but also the alumni and the current ongoing Erasmus Plus students. And the app also fully deploys the Erasmus student card to give possibility to students to get easier access to services when they arrive on the campus abroad, but also to cultural activities that are organized locally. So this is only the start, as the potential is huge once all universities and their students are connected. So it's a journey that we have started years ago and that we continue together with all of you. So that is why today is very important for you to exchange, as I said, and I'm looking forward to hearing to your feedback at the end of the day, and I wish you all a very fruitful session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Head of Unit DEBIAIS-SAINTON, for sharing how the Commission envisages the digitalization of the Erasmus Plus program. I'm sure that all the participants, all their universities will benefit a lot from this great initiative, and it is a pleasure for our institution to participate in its development. Now I would like to introduce Judit HERMÁNDY-BERENCZ, coordinator of the Erasmus Plus App project, who will tell us the story of the Erasmus Plus app in more details.
Thank you, Ferenc, for the introduction. And indeed, as the coordinator of the Erasmus Plus app project, also on behalf of our consortium partners, the European University Foundation and the Erasmus Student Network, let me warmly welcome you all to this event, both you who are joining us on site and due to the hybrid nature of this conference, both those participants who are joining us online. After almost 2 years break in organizing physical events, it is now really a pleasure to have you all here, to see so many faces, to bring life into this beautiful hall. So thank you all for your interest and participation. And let me share a bit of a personal line first, because let me share with you that I still remember when first I heard about the app. That was actually in, sorry. Can we please make the slides available? Thank you very much. So it was back in 2017, when the app was launched during the 30 Years of Erasmus campaign for the 30th anniversary of the Erasmus program. At that time, I was working for the Hungarian National Agency, and I still remember when we started promoting the app, I was like, it is such a great idea to develop a mobile application for supporting study mobility, because it gives guidance to students as well as gives help to universities in managing mobility. I thought that such a tool is a real benefit for everyone. With streamlining information and processes, the app makes the Erasmus mobility easier and more accessible for students, and thus makes the whole Erasmus Plus program more inclusive. And at the same time, it also serves the needs of the institutions, as it helps them bring crucial information directly to the students' fingertips. And actually, the feedback, what we received from higher education institutions whom we were working with as a national agency, also underpinned my enthusiasm. A great interest was shown by universities towards the app and in general towards the E+ digitalization. The number of downloads also showed active interest from students' side. Having a tool that accompanies students from the very early stages, from the very beginning of their mobility experience, up to the end, up to their returning home, offering guidance and practical functionalities to ease their administrative burdens, seemed to be an absolute key tool for the whole community. And during the last 5 years of Erasmus Plus digitalization, processes have been accelerated. We see more and more higher education institutions joining the EWP network and using the digital infrastructure. As part of this process, in line with an even stronger intention to fully digitalize the Erasmus Plus program, the app became one of the central elements of the European Student Card Initiative. The goal was to further develop the app in order to be a real online one-stop shop for student mobility, with additional functionalities such as the digital application procedure to student mobility and the generation of the European student card within the app. So we were really excited when in late 2019, the opportunity presented itself to join forces with our partners EUF and ESN to take this idea quite a few steps further. And in January 2020, we started started to work on the current incarnation of the app. All the way during the project implementation, we've been focusing on delivering high-quality achievements, high-quality results to the European higher education community. We have been aligning the new functionalities as well as the messages, the key messages, and the channels of promotion to the needs of the community we are working with, to students and to higher education institutions. And in order to do so, we have regularly reached out to the community with information and collected feedback during webinars and different dedicated user acceptance testing sessions. We feel that over the last month, we have taken a huge steps towards an app that comes closer to being a transformative tool of the way we think of mobility. And thanks to the support of the community and our joint commitment to our shared vision on a single point of entry to student mobility, now we are really proud to provide you with a redeveloped, enhanced app that offers a wide range of useful functionalities. And please, let's use this conference together to celebrate what we have achieved, the milestones and achievement, what we have reached together with you, with the whole community of higher education institutions and students. And let me now highlight the most important achievements and milestones that we have achieved while redeveloping, enhancing the app. The app now puts the European Student Card at the click of a button for any and all students whose universities are already issuing the European Student Identifier. The app provides this in a smart and convenient way that requires no further efforts, our technical investment from universities. We think this is a fantastic achievement to make the idea of a European-wide university campus a reality and offering students all the services that they are provided. And the app also provides the possibility to fully digitally applying for Erasmus Plus mobility. And this is not just the case that students can apply for mobility via the app, but they also receive notifications and status updates on the status of their application. This feature also helps institutions in managing applications and nominations via the Erasmus Without Paper network. And later today, we will have speakers and presenters from universities who will share with you how they use the app, how this feature helps them in managing mobility. The app also offers structured information about the different Erasmus Plus mobility opportunities to the users, and now this information is available in 23 official languages of the European Union. And this is just the beginning. Soon more parts of the app will be available in these languages. And here let me share with you that in bringing the multilingual app live, our students at ALTA majoring in languages were also involved, and we are really proud of that, and we are really grateful for them for their help. The app also shows the mobility journey pages, which is actually really the beating heart of the application, because these pages provide step-by-step checklists of information and relevant tasks to guide students through the most important milestones of their mobility period, before, during, and after the actual mobility. And in addition of the information that these pages provide, these pages can also be enriched with institution-specific content, which is very important in customizing the app to the students' needs. And as we have already heard, the app also serves as a platform for gathering tips, events, deals, and stories from students organizations, and from higher education institutions. The app serves as a platform for sharing information, peer-to-peer information with each other, and this is very important to have this kind of feature in order to engage the users in using and in using the app. These are just a few examples illustrating how many types of tips can be found in the app. And actually, these tips are not just in the public stream of the app, but can also be found on the map view, which is very handy when you're trying to find a location for an event. As an online access point, the app centralizes access to services connected to the Erasmus Plus program, such as the online learning agreement or the Erasmus Square quiz. And while using the app, students receive status updates and notifications from relevant student services, such as updates on the status of their application or on the status of their online learning agreement. And now, let me share a few statistics with you on the use of the app. On this slide, you can see the number of new downloads on mobile devices, and what you can also see is that the distribution between the two major operating systems, Android and iOS, is even. So it means that the app runs smoothly on both operating systems, and users like them evenly, even if they use Android or Apple devices. The app also operates as a progressive web app, meaning that users can use the web version with exactly the same user experience as of the native app. To provide the full picture on the use of the app, the number of visits on the web version is also an important metric. So what we can see on this slide is that since the second launch event in September 2021, when all major functionalities were deployed, the web version has been visited almost 890,000 times. And I brought you some statistics also on the user-generated content, because this is something that shows the engagement of users in sharing content. And what I would like to highlight here are two types of data. The first is the number of useful information published in the app by higher education institutions. These are the red columns. What we see here is that the number of published content by universities is gradually growing, meaning that more and more higher education institutions use the app for sharing content, streamlining content in the app for their students. The other column I would like to highlight, but it is obviously highlighted already, so you can see what I'm talking about. That's the purple column. That is the number of published tips. And what we see here is that due to the dedicated information and the promotion campaign that we started in September 2021 on engaging students and users in sharing peer-to-peer content, we can see that there is actually an exponential growth in the number of tips and crowdsourced content that we can find now in the app. But of course, as in case of all projects, we also face some challenges during the implementation. As I'm telling you the story of the app, I think this is also part of the story of the app. What we faced as challenges is obviously the global pandemic. We all remember that the COVID-19 pandemic started shortly after kicking off this project. And as we could all experience, the times of quarantine gave a huge impetus to digitalization in basically all fields of life, from online shopping to distance learning, and the role of digital tools in general was highly valued. With the Erasmus Plus app, we could proactively go ahead of the digital transformation, offering a tool for mobile students that functions as a compass for their Erasmus Plus journey. Time proved the indispensability of such a tool, and for us working on it, it gave us an extra motivation to further improve, further fine-tune the functionalities. Regarding the main goal, the enhancement of the app, the most challenging task, indeed, was to manage the volume of the updates that were added. The consultation events with the key stakeholders in the preparation phase led to over 80 different use cases of features that were added or further polished in the app. And further discussions with the stakeholders led to even more new ideas on what they would love to see in the app. Hence, the developer teams had a very intensive work schedule and has been working very hard over the course of the whole project to make sure that the enhancements are made available to all users. During the development phase, we experienced expectations from colleagues who were anticipating for the app to work out of the box with solutions from commercial providers. In a way, it is a perfect illustration that the European Student Card Initiative and the digitization agenda is truly having a momentum, and colleagues are sharing our ambitious vision of students having a single point of access to all key information and services. Yet, it is also important to understand how such solutions could come into being, and this is typically a step-by-step process. The Erasmus Plus app in the last 2 years, in 2021 and 2022, has made a big step forward towards ensuring the interoperability solutions for nominations, data exchange in the Erasmus Without Paper network, and this is a perfect building block to further work on the interoperability aspects. And we are very much looking forward to exploring this avenue, and also the European Commission has already shared that it would be an important priority in the future development for the European Student Card Initiative. What I would also like to mention is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the communication activities. At a very early stage of the project implementation, it became obvious that the planned physical events had to be cancelled and turned into online or hybrid implementation. However, turning the events online opened new possibilities as well. We achieved an even broader outreach to our stakeholders with, for example, more than 2,000 followers of the first launch event in January 2021 and almost 4,000 live viewers of the second launch event in September 2021. And actually, these numbers are gradually increasing since these events can be rewatched. So we see a number of viewers increasing literally day by day. And we had the same experience also with the Erasmus Goes Digital webinars that we organized to share the novelties with the higher education community with an average participation of above 1,000 viewers per each. So I think these are numbers that could have never been reached solely on the ground of physical implementation of events. As a summary, I would like to share with you that with the 24 events where the app has been promoted, we reached over 25,000 views. The pandemic created new challenges also in engaging the target audience. Due to restrictions regarding presentations on physical events, we had to find new and efficient ways to connect to people online with stories, with many different types of visuals, with videos. And we see now that the number of impressions, meaning the number of impressions on social media, which means the number of times a post or story was shown in a person's feed in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So the number of impressions we reached is over 1.6 million, which is far exceeding our set targets and expectations. And in order to engage students in sharing peer-to-peer content, what we have already talked about, to engage them in sharing tips, we launched a tips competition campaign in September 2021. This is very important because students thus can help each other in sharing first-hand experience on their stay abroad. And until now, we reached over 1,000 submitted tips in the app. So the app is now really lively, full of information, full of tips, full of stories. So it is a good base for students to look up information. And just in a week's time, at the Erasmus Generation meeting, my colleagues from the Erasmus Student Network will announce the Erasmus Destination of the year 2022, based on which city received the most tips from the users. The numbers, I think, speak for themselves, but our main aim, of course, is to further promote the app, and here we count also on your active contribution in sharing information and experience about the app in your own communities. You can reach and download multilingual, ready-to-use promotional materials from the project website. Here you can see it on the bottom of the slide, that you can use in your institution's communication channels, including social media. So, as you can see, the redeveloped app equipped with new functionalities supporting students and higher education institutions in the management of Erasmus Plus mobility is now at your service. Our aim is to see the app not only as a digital tool, but as a symbol of belonging to the Erasmus Plus community. That is why we ask you all to continue to be part of the story of the app by using it and sharing your experience with us so that we can further improve and fine-tune the functionalities it offers. We are very much looking forward to hearing your ideas during the afternoon workshop sessions as well. Finally, yet importantly, let me say a huge thank you to all of our colleagues from the European Commission, from our partner institutions, from the developers team, and from the broader higher education institutions community who have supported this journey and contributed in so many ways to achieving our goal in digitalizing the Erasmus Plus program. So now I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would also like to wish you a very successful conference and many contacts and networking for today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Judith, for sharing with us this great story of the Erasmus app and for bringing the app closer to us with all its functionalities. And thank you very much for all your great efforts in managing this project. Now we will have a break, and to make sure we can continue the plenary on time, I would like to ask everyone to return to the hall before 11:10, so 10 minutes past 11. Please kindly do not bring food and beverages in the hall. And thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Thank you very much for being with us here in the ceremony hall of Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, and also in front of your screens who are following the online streaming. In these sessions, representatives of the different institutions, organizations participating in the project will share their experiences and details of their work. And first, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Krisztina SZÉCSÉNYI, Senior Lecturer from the Faculty of Humanities of Eötvös Loránd University, also an Erasmus Plus coordinator at the faculty, and Dániel GALSI, a student from the same faculty, from the Faculty of Humanities of ELTE, who will share their first-hand experience on the use of the main functionalities of the Erasmus Plus app.
Dear partners and colleagues, let me start by welcoming you back after the break. It's very nice to have you here in person, also online. And now let me move on to the first numbers that we would like to present in order to have a better understanding of the type and the size of our university, and also the mobility numbers, which in this case gives more specific information about the expected app user profiles. Now, Let's move on to the status of Erasmus Plus digitalization at ELTE. ELTE has been working with EduGain for more than 10 years, and since many of the attributes required by the European Student Identifier were already enabled, we've already completed the deployment process of the ESI as well. It's especially important because it turns out to be very useful later on while we use Erasmus App to generate the digital European student card as well. For connecting to the Erasmus Without Paper network, we use the dashboard. We handle online learning agreements using the dashboard, and we also started signing IIAs with our partners digitally via this platform. For managing the mobility applications, we also use our own in-house system. This is called Neptune, but it's important that it's not specifically designed for mobility management. It's more of a general tool for managing student administration in general. So basically, none of these tools listed here can cover the full cycle of the mobility process. And this is one of the main aims of the Erasmus app, to cover the full cycle.
Can we get the slides back? Thank you. So the exploratory use of the application has been a conjoint effort of tutors and students alike. It was to create a streamlined and parallel communication between students and tutors to get the most perfect and complete perspective that we could get. And we have explored thus far the sharing of information with students, mobility management, and the European student card. Now, streamlined communication with incoming and outgoing Erasmus students is of primary importance, and this is why the application is so useful, because students can customize and personalize the general vast array of information that the app provides with intuitive tags and mobility step indicatives. It is important to mention that only those students who have set the specific higher education institution as their home or host institution can see the institution-specific information. We here at ELTE focus on giving the outgoing students more information about the whole mobility process right from the beginning, like important deadlines, or giving them information sessions through administrative aid, completing learning agreements, or helping them get their credits recognized. And we also give steps and helps at the very beginning, like giving practical knowledge about health insurance or insurance problems and issues. And also, for incoming students, the application is a great place to promote our university, because we can get targeted informations or events for incoming students to help them prepare for their ELTE stay. And also, this is the place for promotional materials to pique their interest about events, to show that we are indeed prepared to welcome and host them properly. And now, just to take a quick look at these information boxes. When one finds one that piques their interest, they can open it quite easily. And these information blocks come with descriptive headers, the host institution, useful links, a quick and simple description, some additional links if needed, hashtags for organizational reasons, and as you have probably seen, it looks like a bit like a social media pop-up, and these information blocks also have a like function, which is quite important for organizational tools and to show the value of this certain information both to the universities and for the students. So this greatly helps building and strengthening this Erasmus community. And this makes mobility management so much more easier.
Yeah, it's definitely so. So let's move on to that section of the presentation, mobility management, which incorporates two main mobility management functions within the application for a mobility period and nomination itself. And now we've started using the app functionalities during the present application period for the academic year of 2022-23. Given the size and the mobility numbers at ELTA, first we had to really start with a smaller scale introductory phase. But like Daniel said before, it did involve all the actors, from students to IRO, faculty IROs. So basically we got feedback from very, very different perspectives, each of them equally important. Now, the parties involved follow the steps described in the EUF knowledge base, which is a source that we highly recommend for all higher education institutions interested in exploring the app. And very importantly, we have to emphasize that in order to perform application and nomination activities, first, digital IIAs have to be signed. This is mandatory. This is a prerequisite, since the app transfers the data directly from these IIAs. The content of the signed IIAs will also appear for the students in the app when managing their application process, so this is really a must. The process itself is relatively easy to follow and can be described in 3 steps. First, both higher education institutions set up the requirements for outgoing and incoming students. These are mainly documents that the students need to upload for their application. Home higher education institutions can also set up the exact period of the call for applications, as well as the maximum number of places students can apply for. Students first have to create their academic profile, but once it's ready, they will be able to choose from destinations, host universities, in case their faculty has assigned IIA with them. They can select multiple destinations and arrange them in a priority order so they can rank the institutions according to their preferences. And then all documents set up by both home and host universities will be displayed. So basically students just cannot miss a requirement because they have to fill in mandatory boxes. After the submission, the host institution sees the application in the dashboard. After reviewing these documents, the coordinator has different options, accepting, rejecting, deleting the application, as well as putting the student on a waiting list. Students receive a notification after that, and they can accept or confirm the nomination. Actually, this is an important step, so students have to be reminded to do that. This is important because it's after this that the host institution receives the nomination with all the documents. And then they can also decide on accepting, rejecting, or putting the student on a waiting list. Now, let's have a look at what we learned during this introductory phase and with our student helpers. We are really grateful for their job. One of our main findings is the need for central coordination of the process, which means that faculty or department level specifications cannot be set up. At the same time, we have to state that the nomination process becomes much easier. So this was actually the most exciting part of the app from the administrative perspective, because nominations could be performed with just a few clicks, basically just forwarding the data that have already been provided by the student to the host institution. This simplified procedure definitely has great potential in reducing the workload of the IROs and also in preventing the loss of nominations. Student impressions.
And as a student, I found the application very interesting and exciting because this user-friendly and clean, familiar surface area basically made it so that the application for mobility did not seem so much of a scary process anymore. It was quite easy to register. I could use my EduGain because ELTA uses EduGain, so I could use my already existing university username and login information to log in. Also, setting up my academic profile was simply self-explanatory and quite a quick process, to be honest. And so was the application itself. Now, I have to mention that when my mobility got accepted and I got a notification, it was so satisfying clicking that confirm button. And speaking about a satisfactory process, generating the digital European student card could not be easier. Let me just demonstrate how quick and easy that was. I clicked on the student card icon, read some simple instructions, uploaded a picture, and then boom, I had a working student card. Just a quick check with the QR code, and it's valid. I have a European widely accepted student card at my disposal at any time. Now, it's important to mention that creating this digital card has two prerequisites. One is that one student has to have EduGain. This was the case at ELTE because we use this authentication system, so I could use my university login information. And the second one is that the university has to use the European Student Identifier. This was also the case at ELTE. But let not just me talk about the student identity card, because there is someone in the room who has personal experiences which they can share about the card.
Yeah, actually, I can confirm that this student card, digital student card, is a very, very valuable component of the Erasmus app. My older son currently is in Madrid, spending his Erasmus semester there, having a great time, and this month we just visited him. And of course, once you're there, you just have to go to the Prado Museum. Now, what happened? My son happened to forget to bring his printed student card with him, but at the same time, he did remember that the Erasmus app had this digital student card available or included within it. So basically what happened was that he presented that, and we were all very curious about the result. But I'm very glad to report here to you that he could enter Prado and enjoy his student discount as well. So on this positive note, let's move to our overall conclusions now. And if we want to summarize briefly, then we can say that based on these first impressions, the functionalities do look promising. And of course, ELTE is determined to further spread the word about the app in different events. And of course, we are planning to involve further faculties in using these functions, more and more partnerships established, and to communicate with students and colleagues as well. We are also planning to further extend the use of mobility management functions, but at this point, we really have to emphasize that it depends to a large extent on the partners, and to an even larger extent, the development of the Erasmus Plus digital ecosystem. So this whole event is also a call for action, because I guess it's becoming clearer and clearer for all of us that the more of us use the Erasmus app, the better it can become. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for sharing your impressions and conclusions on using the Erasmus App functionalities. It is great that we could hear about first-hand experiences from both the institutional as well as the student perspective. And it is great to see the app functioning. I also tried some functionalities earlier, and I can also confirm it is really not only practical but also a good feeling to use it, and to see that without papers you are using something really good for the environment as well. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce Wim GABRIELS, Director of the Erasmus Student Network, who will talk about how to introduce the app to students in the European student community.
It's a great pleasure to be here on behalf of ESN to also talk a little bit more about how the students experience the background of the digitalization process. So on that sense, I think it's very nice to also hear the stories coming from Krisztina, who just experienced it with her son. Looking at the Erasmus Plus app, we, of course, digitalization is an important process, but we're doing this for a specific reason, which is making mobility more accessible for young people, decreasing thresholds to mobility participation, right? So in that sense, we noticed that it is still very important for young people and sometimes very difficult for young people to take part in mobility opportunities. When we asked students that did not take part in mobility yet, what information they would find very useful and encouraging, we, for example, see that they want more information on the types of programs that are available. They want to hear previous stories from other participants so that they can see what it does to people's lives. They want to see more information about the host countries. They want to know more about how this impacts their future career opportunities. And they want to also get more information on how this impacts their academic processes. So in general, we also see that students that did take part in mobility, they want to see more information about how the funding specifically works, what type of support or support with the application process, and help with choosing the university that they want to go to. So in that sense, we see that access to clear and transparent information for students remains, to this day, after 30 years of implementation, right, remained an issue. The amount of paperwork that is expected to be done. There's still a fear on the impact of academic achievement from students. The cost of living and funding, how are they going to cover for their expenses abroad? And more practical information about accommodation, travel, and healthcare are needed. And at the end of the day, the Erasmus Plus app offers a lot of this type of information within its infrastructure. So it offers a possibility for people to learn more about the different opportunities, to get peer-to-peer tips and stories, to have this step-by-step checklist with the different milestones and the important elements that are there related to the online learning agreement, but also the nomination processes, the grant agreements, and so on. It offers the interactive map that was already presented with discount stories and tips, and an online access point that centralizes all of the information and the services that are there. So I think in that sense, the app does offer a solution for the problems that students keep on signaling. Now, the question is also, how do we make sure that students take ownership of this experience and use the app as their personal space to guide themselves through their Erasmus experience from start to finish? And for that, we also try to follow one starting principle, being that the Erasmus Plus app is intertwined with a successful mobility journey. So it's not necessarily an independent tool. It's a tool that is really guiding students from A to Z. And we need to pass through these mobility stages successfully in order to really implement this. So the Erasmus Plus app is, in that sense, not an end product, or digitalization is not an end product, but a tool to facilitate that. And we have like a very short video that I think can summarize a little bit better than what I can do here in a few seconds. This is one of the many videos that we produced in order to explain to young people what it is that they can actually do within their Erasmus Plus app. As it was already introduced by some of our colleagues, right? Engaging with students through the Erasmus Plus app is possible by augmenting your mobility journey. So giving more information about the different steps and the different regulations specifically connected to your institutions, but also tips about accommodation, connected to your local realities, your cities. It is possible to organize events and engage students in that way for your incoming, but also for your outgoing students, and offer student discounts. For example, ESN pushes all of its student discounts through esncard.org in the Erasmus Plus app, so they're all showcased and students can be aware of them. You can also include specific student services in your institution to inform students about them. And it is important that we all try to do this by making sure that these procedures are simple and transparent. But of course, it is about more than only using the app in itself, in the ecosystem. As we were showing, for example, earlier today, we have the Erasmus Plus Tips competition and engaging students through the Erasmus Plus app to give tips. But this also very often what we see is that it's a means to an end, a tool to kind of engage with students throughout the app. And we also see that, or we would encourage you to use the app in your mobility promotion activities. When you're presenting all the mobility opportunities to the students, to also mention it to them. When you are doing mobility promotion at your institution or for your incoming students, to mention it. Because I think it will only become a living tool when we are starting to integrate it actively in our flows of mobility. And then we can also suggest you, for example, to link directly to specific pages within your institutions to the directly specific pages within the app and create QR codes to interact with the different spaces. We have prepared quite an extensive promo toolkit that you can find on hello.erasmusapp.eu that has more than 20 visuals that are cut for different spaces on social media. It will talk about different stages and features in the Erasmus Plus app, but it will also work to promote informative messages and emotive messages, not only tackling yes, you can do this now all digitally, but also, for example, trying to encourage people to go on exchange, such as, for example, here, the focus on the journey, ditch the paperwork. So it's trying to motivate people to go on exchange and be able to focus specifically on their experiences and not on all of the back-end work that is connected to that. We have more than 15 different key messages, and there are also 10 different videos available for you to use whenever you're doing the promotion. Next to that, we also have a printing pack where you have different roll-ups, different posters and flyers, and it's all translated into all 23 EU languages, thanks to the help of the students of ELTE, and all available in the printing pack. There is also a visual style guide where you can find more information if you want to make adjustments to any of the material. Okay, so thank you for your attention, and I hope to see many of you using some of the material that we've created in order to engage directly with your students. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director, for bringing in the student perspective, also for representing the student voice on the one hand, and for bringing back the app to the students that will satisfy step by step all the needs. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Nicolò BONATO, Policy and Research Officer at the European University Foundation, who will talk about how the app can help enable broader participation in mobility in the future, a very important topic as well.
Thank you for your introduction, and welcome everybody. It's nice to see you all in person for a change. And I will start my presentation by reminding you of what we're going to talk about. And what we're going to talk about is the future of the Erasmus app and how it can help broaden international mobility participation. So bringing more students to go on mobility and to take the opportunity to change their life with Erasmus. Now, one thing that we wanted to stress is that the Erasmus app was never built as a sort of all-encompassing tool, something that would swallow all other services, but rather the idea was to have a springboard, a stepping stone from where you can go as a student and find all other services that can be relevant to your experience when you're on mobility or when you want to go on mobility, because the app, as we know, serves both purposes, helping students that are already abroad, but also trying to help those that are deciding whether to go and want to know more about it and have more data from other students like them. So the integration of other services in the app was always one of the main things we thought about when developing it. And we have already seen, and Judit introduced you to that, the integration, for example, with the online learning agreement platform. So the idea that students can check the status of their learning agreement and have always the pulse of the situation, so to speak, without needing to rely on paperwork as it used to be. But then there are other integrations. For example, we have the integration with the Erasmus Skills platform. Now, the whole point of the Erasmus Skills platform is something that goes along well with what Wim talked about. So the impact that mobility has on students, how it changes them and how it changes their skills and their capabilities. The Erasmus Skills platforms created a place where to have some sort of self-assessment tool that would help students understand what actually came from their mobility. And its integration in the Erasmus Plus app means that, as you can see in these mock-ups, students can go from the platform and just take their test there, check their scores, and see what it was like for them, and even consult older tests in the case of students going on multiple mobilities, which we really hope to see more and more about. Now, these are just examples of some integrations, and there are lots of candidates for other interactions and other integrations, because the community of higher education has lots of ideas. And this is the whole point of having these kind of conferences, and more importantly, these kind of workshops, that we want to hear about other ideas, and we want to exchange ideas with the wider higher education community, because there's always something that you never think about. But then when the idea is there, you go like, oh, okay, that's actually something that might be interesting. Let's see what can be done. Now, one example that we had as an idea was, for example, the Erasmus Intern platform. We've heard from the feedback from students and institutions using the app that they wanted to see more on the app for mobile trainees rather than mobile students. And for example, the erasmusintern.org platform provides a place where to find indexed quality offers for traineeship. So offers for traineeship that come from private organizations or public institutions that can be then shown to everybody. And implementing these kind of platforms with the Erasmus app is something that could be of interest for the future. Now, moving forward, there is actually a larger idea here that's not just the future of the Erasmus app, but there's a specific topic, a big challenge that we found in years and years at the UF, working with the higher education community and listening to what problems and criticalities were. And this next big challenge is, of course, the one of housing. Housing, as we all know, is a huge problem for students that go on mobility for a wide array of reasons. Now, there's been intensive research on this topic from many different organizations, and some of the problems that are there, we all know them. We've seen some of these problems even inside the app already, because with the new features about living costs, so collecting data on what students report directly, so it's crowdsourced from them about their expenditures, we see something that's confirmed in all the research on this topic. That is that accommodation, and to a far lesser degree transportation, are the biggest expenses for students going on mobility. Now, this is very relevant because, of course, it comes from an array of places and of possible root causes. Some of these root causes are important to know, but cannot really be addressed by the app. For example, the insufficient supply, the matter of the fact that in some cases, in some cities, there's simply less houses than what people in general want, even without talking about specifically mobile students. And of course, we have to be aware of these challenges, but at the same time, we have to be aware of the fact that the Erasmus app is not something that can fix everything. It's not a magic wand, and unless we go out and start donning construction hats and start building houses, we can't really act on that point. But what we can act upon are the other problems that came out of researches like this one for the House Erasmus project, which was a Key Action 2 project. And it showed, for example, the problem with the lack of cooperation, with a scenario that's fragmented and scattered, where we have private providers from many, many different private providers, housing offers, and then sometimes institutions have their own housing accommodation options. And all this information comes in a bit haphazardly. It's not always easy for the students to understand, okay, this is where I can look for accommodation, and this is the kind of things that I should be looking for. And the kind of things that we should be looking for, once again, goes on the third point. So the lack of quality information. Quality information means that in order to take a stance on where you're going to go as a student, you need to have more data on, for example, the kind of accommodation you will find, but also what you should be looking for. Because, and this is an important point, I think, and I guess that we are all aware of it, in many, many cases, students, before going on mobility, live with their parents. Europe has a wide network of universities, and so in many cases, students can go to universities that are not that far from home. So in many cases, when a student goes abroad, it's not only the first time that they go living abroad, but it's even the first time that they go living by themselves. So in this case, having information on quality of the accommodation is very much relevant, because sometimes you don't even know what to look for. You don't know if you should look for example, something that might appear obvious to all of us, but does this housing offer provide short rental contracts? Because if I'm going to be there for just 6 months, this is something that I should know. Does this housing offer have, for example, accommodation that's fitting for students with reduced mobility? This is, once again, something that's important, but it's not always highlighted in offers from private providers, because they're not catering to this specific audience, of course. Erasmus students are by far not the largest market of renters in Europe, and so it's not something that they think of when they start creating their tools. Now, what this means is that from the community, we saw a huge strive for changing the way things were, changing this idea where students are a bit left alone and they don't really know where to look for and what to look for. So, for example, what I just talked about, the idea of what should I look for in a new accommodation, because maybe I genuinely don't know. The first days of an Erasmus student are often in a new country where they don't maybe speak the language, maybe they just speak English, and in some cases, even their English, they're not too confident. They have a huge financial burden that they have to take care of because they have to pay for their accommodation, and maybe back home they were living alone. And in this situation, which can be a bit stressful, of course, they have to go out and try to sort out different options and understand what's what and what they should be looking for. So, for example, in the case of the home project that came from an effort with both these private providers that I'm talking about and public institutions that offer housing for students, what they started looking at was creating some sort of standard, some sort of quality labels that would tell you useful information about these kind of things. So is this house good for international relations students? For example, because it has a good internet connection, it has the option for short-term contracts. Is this house well equipped? Does it have all that could be needed or not? Because maybe if I have to go and then, I don't know, even something banal as doing laundry in another place, well, that might be a problem if there's a language barrier there. And to make this actionable, we worked on a digital data standard. Now, I don't want to get into technicalities, but the idea of a data standard is basically having an agreement on how you exchange information. So you say, okay, if you want to see about this house, whether it has this service or this other, this is the way you ask for it. And on top of that, an API that basically makes these questions and answers possible. Now, I want to give you a short example of what these quality labels look like, and these are just two of them because the project is still ongoing and there's still reflection others that might be helpful. And for example, the accessibility point, it's something that can be quite easily understood, but then there might be different factors to accessibility. And the idea is to have a situation where you say, okay, For a place to be considered accessible, it has to have 2 out of these 3 things. It has to be wheelchair accessible, and then the doors have to be wide enough that somebody on a wheelchair can move around. And then it would be nice if, for example, the bathroom and the appliances were fitting that particular use case. In the case of well-equipped, this is easier to understand, but once again, not something that maybe is so important for private providers when they publish their information, because they go with the assumption that the renters would be adults with experience in renting houses and know what to look for, which we all know is not often the case for students that are going abroad for the first time. Now, these quality labels would appear, and this is just a mock-up, but I thought we would share it with you just to get the ideas flowing, so to speak, and to see what kind of things are possible, can be seen in the home integration, for example, of the app. So the idea behind the home integration of the app, similarly to what we saw with the skills integration, is that students from the app can already see these offers. They can filter them, and this I show some of the available filters, and they can then see them all displayed in front of them and have an idea of what to look for. Now you might notice those little dots at the bottom, and in the next slide you might see them better, and those are the famous quality labels that I talked about. So the idea that at a glance, immediately you say, okay, this is accessible, has this kind of equipment, doesn't do rental contract though. So maybe if I'm going on mobility for 3 months or 5 months, not the best option, but if I'm going abroad for 1 year, why not? This kind of integration, of course, does not come easily. Once again, this is just one idea out of the whole higher education community, but it still already in itself provides some challenges and some things that we have to talk about and think about if we want to move on with this kind of things. In this particular case, the problem is, of course, getting the offers. So accommodation offers from private providers, which flow normally through other systems, and then housing information from public institutions. For example, let's think about regional institutions in Italy that provide housing to students, or the CNUS and CRUS system in France, where they have housing that they manage themselves and have to display it to incoming students wherever. This is what the EDSSI project was working on, besides many other things. But this is something that's already happening, trying to think about a system where we can bring everything closer, and everything closer to the student. Because the end user, at the end of it all, is still the mobile student, or the prospective mobile student. One last thing that I wanted to mention on this topic is that a motto that we use often at the UF, and that if you have seen other presentations by my colleagues you might have heard already, is this idea of no university left behind. There are lots and lots of very small institutions in Europe that still have an active international mobility life, let's say. So they send students abroad and they receive students from abroad. Maybe these institutions are really small. They have hundreds of students and they have 3 or 4 mobile students each year. That does not mean that they shouldn't be part of this. In some cases, these institutions even have their own housing. This is the case sometimes for small music and art schools, for example, where they have residence for their students. In some cases, they have long-standing agreements with some private providers in their area, just because since they have so little students, they can easily try and have a deal, long-standing deal with existing partners. And the idea is to try and keep them within the system, to not let them be lost in an infrastructure that the one we were talking about with EDSSI would be more fitting for large institutions. And so in the new re-edition, let's call it that way, of the EDSSI project, the EDSSI L2, this is what, among other things, was tackled. So creating a system is being tackled, to be honest, creating a system that allows smaller institutions to participate in this and to proffer their housing accommodations to students that are incoming. Now, the last thing that we wanted to talk about, the last idea, was the very final step. So let's say that everything works, that this idea seems interesting, that the higher education community says, yes, let's go forward with it. Development happens, and everything is cool. Students can see their housing offers on the app, they can choose a place to stay, they see that it kind of works well for them, and they think, okay, that's a good deal, let's go. What we want to do is to take a good deal and make it into a done deal. We want to close the loop, so to speak, and we want to allow students to do the last thing, that is signing their contract. We want to provide this opportunity for students that are going on mobility to not have to spend the first few days, once again, struggling to find accommodation, struggling to understand local laws, maybe a contract that's written in a language they don't really understand. And we want to take that step and pull it forward, and pull it at a moment where it can be done with, hopefully, more tranquility, when they're still back home, and they can consult whoever they want to consult about it, but actually have an electronic signature, and this is what the ESVA project is about. Now, it's not only about this, there's other stuff that can be done with electronic signatures, and we already know from feedback that we received from other situations, well, not like this, because, of course, physical events were not a thing for a long time, but online we did receive feedback about wanting to see electronic signatures in many other places, for example, signing interinstitutional agreements or the like. And this is what the project is also working on. But in this context, this was the main application that we could see for it. So the idea that when a student gets on a flight, on a train, on a bus, they go with their car, whatever, at least they know that the bureaucratic part is done. And not only the bureaucratic part of the learning agreement and whatever else, but even their accommodation is sorted out. And they can actually go there and start doing their mobility without having to think about those things. Now, I want to conclude this all by saying that this is not, well, maybe we should have titled it differently. Let's put it that way. We called it the future of the Erasmus App, but this might be a future of the Erasmus App, more appropriately. Because the whole idea of this event and other events that will follow, and in general of the mechanism of feedback that comes from a connected higher education community, is to try and understand what can best service both students and international relations offices that have to deal with those students. So we decided to talk about the housing issue because we think that this is a very important question for students that go abroad. This is a very important burden on them, and it's also a barrier to entry, so to speak. So something that prevents students to go abroad, or even not just that, but even just the idea of having to take care of something so burdensome stops them even from getting information. We want to try and take that out, and so we are starting to think about the infrastructure that might be built to do that. But we also have to keep in mind that this infrastructure can be used to integrate other services, other ideas that we hope are ready to see today in the workshops. And if you are participating in the future workshops, as we call them, you might see me there exactly for this reason. And to see how everything can be made a bit easier for students so that they can actually take their opportunity with this and that more and more people can participate in mobility. Thank you, everybody, for your attention, and I hope to see you later.
Very much for the interesting insight into a future of the Erasmus app. It was also very important for me as someone. Lunch will be served outside the hall. I would like to ask you again not to bring food and beverages in the hall. And the workshop sessions will start at 1 p.m. sharp. So please make sure that we can start on time, as the opening presentations of the workshops will be streamed to online workshop participants. The rooms for the workshop in the afternoon will be signposted, and also the organizers who are wearing can help you finding the workshops. So enjoy your meal, and thank you very much for being with us. Thank you.